Welcome to the Nerdwelten podcast. I recently had the opportunity talking to Charpenet and Hubert Chardot, two former Infogrames employees and really nice and fun guys who worked on the original Alone in the Dark trilogy, Shadow of the Comet, and Prisoner of Ice. Well, as you've already noticed, this conversation is once more entirely in English, as Patrick and Hubert don't speak German, and my French is quite rusty. So have fun with this new episode and remember to subscribe to the Nerdwelten podcast on your podcatcher or iTunes. Find us on www.nerdweltenpodcast.com and remember, we're always interested in your thoughts and opinions. Let's get started. Herzlich willkommen beim Nerdwelten Podcast. Hier wollen wir uns über all die schönen nerdigen Dinge dieser Welt und insbesondere über Retro-Videospiele und Computerspiele unterhalten. Also macht's euch bequem, spitzt die Ohren und dann viel Spaß mit der heutigen Folge. So here we are again with another interview episode, and as you have already noticed, this time it is my great pleasure to have Patrick Charpenet and Hubert Chardot with me. And as my French is not too well at all, I will reduce it to a short welcome and say Salut, ça va?
Bonjour. Salut. C'est bien. Parlez bien français.
As I said, you both worked in the industry before. You have both worked for Infogrames in the 90s. And you've worked on the original Alone in the Dark trilogy, on the Call of Cthulhu games, Shadow of the Comet, and Prisoner of Ice. Would both of you give our listeners a short introduction of your person and your work in about 4 to 5 sentences?
Hubert, you want to do the honors?
Okay. So, hello, my name is Hubert Chardot, and my first work in the video industry was to write scripts for Cthulhu games. So, Shadow of the Comet were my first real script for video games. I was never do that before. And after that, I work on Alone in the Dark and Prisoner of Ice.
Okay, so it's my turn, I guess.
It is?
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Patrick Charpenet. I also worked at Infogrames with Hubert. I started initially in video games. I was an art director from outside the video game business, and then I went on board with Infogrames and I worked on a really crazy loony adventure game called Entstehung.
Yes, okay.
And after that, I worked on Alone in the Dark. No, sorry, on Shadow of the Comet first. This is when I met Hubert. I had very little to do with the original Alone in the Dark. I think he contributed a couple of drawings. But then I was recruited on Alone in the Dark 2 and 3 to be pretty much art manager, art director, set designer, kind of. We had to pack a lot of hats back then because those were small teams and we were doing a lot of different stuff. So Hubert and I did a lot of Lovecraftian horror pretty much up to the point where we were begging to do something else. Okay. Something like with the teddy bears and flowers and stuff like that. Tentacles, like a lot. But we loved it.
How was your impression working for a French-based studio with such high ambitions as Infogrames back in the day?
Whoa. It was, for me, what a real discovery, you know. Before that, I was working in the movie industry, but not creative. I was a distributor of movie for 20th Century Fox, and the first time I came to Infogrames, I met weird people like Patrick Charpenet, and it was very strange, you know, for me. But
thank you.
No, but it was terrific. In fact, really great. You know, I have the impression to work in Hollywood in the 40s. You know, it was the same. You know, it was new. It was astonishing. It was very amusing too, and we can do everything we wanted, except some too much horrible things, because Bruno Bonners didn't want to shock too much the audience. But we were free. We don't earn a lot of money, but we were free, and it was very amusing. We were young.
Yeah, and also a little thing that you might find amusing was that one of the reasons why we had to write in a little bit the violence and the gore and the really horrific themes that we were always trying to push for as a creative team doing Lovecraft was we would always get that, oh, be careful, there's Germany. They don't like to see blood, because there were like a lot of approval problems because of that, because of you guys.
And when did the studio decide to start a cooperation with Chaosium, the publisher of the Call of Cthulhu pen and paper roleplay game?
I think it was packaged with Alone in the Dark and Shadow of the Comet pretty much at the same time. That might have been pretty much around the time you got hired, Hubert, maybe a little earlier, like 92, something like that.
Oh, it was 2 years before the releasing of Shadow of the Comet, because Bruno met the people of Chaosium in Auckland, and they signed a contract for to develop 3 games. The first one that was supposed to be Alone in the Dark, the first, and Shadow of the Comet, the second. So they have a problem with script, and by luck, I heard about it, and I met Bruno, and because I was a fan of Lovecraft, I proposed him to work, and he needs someone to write stories. So it was unexpected, and but at the basis, they signed a deal. So the Chaosium expect games, so we have to release these games. It was very simple, a simple thing.
And the contract first included just 2 games, Alone in the Dark and Shadow of the Comet, as far as I understand?
No, 3 games.
Okay.
Alone was supposed to be a Lovecraftian game, but because Bruno expect many money from Alone in the Dark, he convinced Chaosium that Alone in the Dark was not a Lovecraftian game. It's just an adventure game, etc., just to keep the money.
Yeah, and I think also, from what I remember, that Chaosium was not crazy about Alone in the Dark, because that was a real-time game with very, very low polygon. I mean, it was the first real-time adventure game, I believe, with characters back then, and they compared to the 2D game that we were developing, Shadow of the Comet, where everything was pre-drawn, animated by hand. If I remember correctly, they were not crazy about the looks of these low poly characters, and they were not crazy about the fact that there was a lot of fighting inside the adventure, within the adventure, because in their mind, the Lovecraftian hero is kind of like somebody who this is not somebody who walks around like the Terminator with a gun or a sword, because what are you going to do against if Cthulhu has your number, that's it. You can have all the guns in the world, you're gone, man.
Yeah, that's the point of the stories, and I get that. But it was during the development that Chaosium pulled its license back, or was it before?
I think it was production already, Hubert, right?
It was a deal. The deal was to produce 3 games, and the Lovecraftian novels are not. There's no action really in Lovecraft novel. For the hero, in the point of view of the hero, the hero is always a kind of victim of the fate. So but we have delay to produce games. They expect games for Christmas, and we were in a hurry to do that because a game was distributed in States by what's the name of this company?
Broadband or
No.
Interplay?
Interplay. Yeah. In the US, Interplay
Right.
distribute Infogrames games, and Interplay expected this game too. So, but it was very difficult because it was at this time the PC grew up, the technology grew up, and first I think Shadow was 3. C'était 3 disquettes, no? 3.
Yeah, maybe like three or four floppy disks.
Well, floppy, yeah.
So they were 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was light. It was a very light game. Not a lot of things inside, of course.
Yeah.
But it was not in a state of anger that Chaosium pulled the license, because later on...
No, we had a really, really great relationship with them.
Yeah, great.
I was visiting regularly Oakland, California, to meet with the team, and they were always the most gracious and charming. I mean, they look like bikers. Don't get me wrong; they're kind of scary looking.
Yeah.
But they were great. They would share everything they could share, reference material, advice. Very, 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 very nice guy. They would spend entire days reading the script with us, and me trying to translate to English because the script was in French. And just great guys, very supportive.
Yeah, and that's also a thing that kind of confused me when I researched for this interview and the episodes we are planning to do on the podcast, because Alone in the Dark still is a very Lovecraftian video game, with all the books, with all the creatures. Even as far as I recall, the name Cthulhu is still featured in the game. What do you guys think? How much different could this game have been? With
Yes? I think it was a mutual accord to walk away from Alone in the Dark for them. But Hubert, you really worked on the producing that thing, so you should answer that.
Yeah, but first it was how can imagine to be Lovecraftian game, but when we decided to take to make something different, we change all the name of the creature. Okay, the basis in fact was, how could I say that, a classic of old fantastic stories, you know. The Doom place, the old haunted house with secrets and with horror on it. But for the creature, for example, we couldn't do nothing with Lovecraftian creature because we don't have any polygons to make monsters with tentacles and things like that. It was really cheap, it's technically it was really impossible. So we tried to make a kind of fantastic, horrific film noir, with a private detective and things like that,
Yeah. That's for the reference.
Yeah, it's not Lovecraftian. It's not Lovecraftian.
That's for the reference to Cthulhu, which honestly I don't remember, but there were two things. Like Lovecraft's early works, it was free for all, right? It was not something that was protected. Not all of it, but what we couldn't get with Alone in the Dark was the actual Call of Cthulhu stamp. Chaosium that don't own Lovecraft. They don't own Cthulhu. They just do like a lot of people doing RPG. They use general legend or something that's public domain or close to public domain, and then they create their own brand, their own trademark, which is Call of Cthulhu, not Cthulhu. So we could.
Okay. Well, Alone in the Dark used this fixed and very cinematic camera angles. So what did you guys think back in the day when Resident Evil came along, which is also a horror game with a big mansion and with a very, very similar graphical approach, and that also tells big parts of its story through books and documents the player can find?
It was, it's a mixed bag because honestly, when we heard of it, it was not Resident Evil yet. I think it was called Biohazard or something like that.
Yes, that's a Japanese name.
And we started hearing about it, and also we were trying to push Alone in the Dark 2, I think, through Sony for, I think it was the first place.
Yes.
First PlayStation.
Right.
And Sony was giving us a lot of reasons why they could not approve our game as quick as possible. And we were starting to get a little worried until suspicious of them, like why. And I was in the US at the time. We did a couple of meetings there, and it was like, oh, your load screen are too long. There's something really kind of strange reason. Okay. And then we started hearing a lot about Biohazard and see screenshots. And the thing was that, we were a little concerned for sure, but we knew that Alone in the Dark was going to get a copy that's somehow quickly, because it was just a very interesting proposition to do real-time characters. And on the other hand, I really loved it personally. I mean, as an artist, I thought a lot of the stuff that they were doing in Resident Evil was probably superior to what some might call a prototype called Alone in the Dark. I mean, they were no holds barred as far as the horror, as far as the really scary stuff. And we were kind of like, oh man, I wish we could do that, right? Plus, you got the know-how and the talent of the team that did the game. In this case, incredible.
So you got no harsh feelings about Resident Evil?
No.
Really.
Why?
When we did our first adventure games, all that stuff, we took a lot of influences, let's say. We don't copy things per se, but, hey, how do you solve, opening a door with a hidden puzzle or whatever to the adventure game? Sure, we were taking hints from our, Sierra Online and whatever, the competition. Like, oh yeah, that's how they do that stuff. Let's do our own version, our own spin. Sometimes, we don't create in a vacuum. So all the power to Biohazard, Resident Evil, and when you see what they did with that thing, good lesson. They never let that license die. So great.
Okay, I got one more question about Alone in the Dark. One thing I particularly like about this game is that in the beginning you can choose between two characters, between a male and a female. Another thing that Resident Evil copied, but okay. But why?
You want to fight, right?
No, I don't want. I don't want.
Sully to fight with
us. Why was Emily Hartwood added as a playable character? Was there a reason, or was it just to add a female?
It was Frederick Renal friends who was comment il s'appelle déjà? What's his name?
Yael.
Pardon?
Yael Barros.
Ouais, Yael Barros. Yeah. Yael Barros wanted to design a girl, and because she was a girl, and she says, girls don't never play video games. So maybe
she was the set designer on the
yeah,
original
yeah.
Alone in the Dark.
With a female character, maybe girls will like it. And in fact, it's easier to win with a girl because his kick are best than the man. You know, if you want to fight a creature or monster, you better choose a girl. She's stronger than the man with the punch and with the kicks.
How about that?
It was a feminist game, the first one.
It's actually really funny because a couple years after the game was released, I was attending GDC. I think it was in San Francisco or San Jose, and there was a conference about girls in games. And there was I think she was a psychology professor or something like that. She was giving a big expose about how video games had to become more, friendly to women, and even adventure games and action games have women in them. I mean, pretty much woke before its time. And I kept raising my fingers to tell her, hey, you should check out Alone in the Dark. And she would always kind of ignore me. And then at the end of the conference I went to, I said, I'm really sorry because we actually have a fantastic female character in Alone in the Dark on PC. It was a big hit. A lot of people play that. And she was just like, yeah, whatever. So, sorry. That was kind of funny. Sorry, Hubert.
Yeah, it was great. It was very amusing to play with the girl, and so I think it's brings something because it's her house. She have to inquire in her house. It's an heritage for her. Can't be just private. For her, it's more immersive. In fact, but we don't have the way to express it technically because at this time the technology was it was the beginning of the technology.
Yeah, the girls the girls looked very blocky.
Yeah. It's not very sexy. So
yeah.
Okay.
Who knows?
Then let's switch over to Shadow of the Comet. The first question I had in mind, you already kind of answered because that was after Alone in the Dark. Chaosium did license the next two games, and they actually were called Call of Cthulhu: Shadow of the Comet and Call of Cthulhu: Prisoner of Ice. And I think, as far as I understood from your previous explanations, is that Chaosium was very satisfied with the next two games.
They were positive. Yeah. Just to specify something, we developed Alone in the Dark. The development to Alone in the Dark was started way earlier than Shadow of the Comet, but it was not it was not a Cthulhu thing, but specifically right away. And pretty much the first year development was pretty much engine and tool development and prototyping. And then when we started working on Shadow of the Comet, which was a different team, technology was much more straightforward. We already had done 2D games. We had a bunch of stuff that we had experimented with on Eternam, such as animated close-ups using vector-based graphics. All that stuff, the way to display backgrounds, the sprite tools, sprite engine, all that stuff was already made. So it was more a matter of, okay, guys, since you're ready you're finished with Eternam, how would you like to do a horror game?
And how long was Shadow of the Comet in development?
I think it was, I want to say a little bit under a year, right, Hubert?
Yes, 9 months. 9 months.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very straightforward. I'd say the pre-production, the initiation of the game was a little weird, like often. Bruno Bonnell, if I remember, he had in mind doing the Shadow of the Comet. Well, it started with, hey, could we do a game where everything's in the dark? Because it was the idea of at some point, it was floating around the company for years. Like, let's do a game with just audio and occasional flickers of light. And the characters is really, really in the dark. That's where the original Alone in the Dark name came from. And for Shadow of the Comet, it sort of wanted to do that. And then they said, hey, how about we do a game in black and white, in grayscale? So we did some mock-ups in grayscale, and it was like, all right, great. Looks really cool. We don't think we're going to sell any. So we went, just like color and all that stuff. And then we got, that's around the time Hubert arrived with the story.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading that story on the train to Paris. I was going on a business trip, and I can't remember who gave me that script to read. Hey, there's a new guy, check it out. And I came back from my business trip like really, really excited because it was really, really great script. And things just like, we had a really good producer. His name is Norbert Cellier. Very, very organized guy. He did engineering school. Very small team. Like, we hired a lot of, we pretty much started doing like, I'd say a lot of outsourcing on that project. It was really big. But in-house, we were just like, I don't know, like 3 programmers, I think, and a couple artists, and a writer, maybe a script. Yeah. A script coder. It was really tiny team.
Yeah.
So everything was just like, and we were all on the same floor. We had our little separated unit that we had managed to get from management the year prior. So we had our floor in the building, just us, and everybody was super excited going to work every day and weekends and stuff. And we just cranked it out.
Mm.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. We were 8 people, 7,
Yes.
8, and the
Yeah.
musician sometimes.
Yeah, but it was external.
Yeah. It was very cool. I remember the first work we done with Patrick. He tells, I really don't know at the beginning how to work with that, and we make a kind of map of the village, of the place where the adventure, with a little house in and little comment on dit figurine?
We made some paper models of the houses in the village.
Yeah.
And we just bought some like cheap action figures. Like, I remember our characters were like, there was like I think it was like maybe like a Care Bear toy, something like that, and there was Captain Picard and some Green Army Man. It was just like, or whatever, and toy cars and stuff like that. And we just mocked up adapted the whole scenario on the floor with the giant whiteboard on the floor where we traced out. And we had this little, remember, Hubert, we had this little paper cutouts.
Yeah.
Where we had cut out like little windows at the ratio of the resolution of the game, and we would like lean down, just like kids on the floor on our bellies and elbows, and say, "Hey, this would be a good shot. Like, let's move the house a little bit there, and let's just redraw the village center and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was a lot of planned physicality for that game, which was not just like some random houses. It was actually, we could have made a 3D game with that. It would have worked.
Yeah, it was like kids playing at the game. We create a virtual universe, the village and around, and we imagine everything what could happen on it. It's very realistic. In fact, approaching this kind of problem. Where is the hero? Where he live, where he sleep, where he eat, where he can meet these people or these people, and it gives a very realistic touch to
what I remember. What I remember also is like at the time the company was growing, and we had a lot of external visitors, like potential investors, and distributors, foreign distributors, and all that stuff. And I remember people would walk into that office when we were doing that and just like shake their heads and you walk out. Like, what the fuck? So that was funny, yeah. But Hubert's very modest because he says he was learning the craft, but the truth is we were all learning the craft. This is what made the company so exciting. It's just like, how are we going to do this? Like for Shadow of the Comet, we considered using like live model kits. Have some artists build like for special effect for a movie, like build physical village, and we actually visited sculptors and all that stuff. It was just there was always something new, always something crazy coming up around the corner in Cinetech, and that was just super exciting. On top of the fact that Hubert and I were both I would say pretty big Lovecraft fans from the beginning.
As you have already mentioned the village, I will put this question right here. Shadow of Comet features some really, really beautiful graphics of houses and the forest as well. And how were these graphics made? You're welcome. Did you use real photographs for this, or how did you make these graphics?
I think I can answer that because I committed most of those.
Yeah.
It was a pretty complex process in the sense that Infogrames didn't own a scanner back then. So we had made a deal with some Japanese company that actually some Japanese PC wanted to publish a game, and they gave us some of their piece. That was a Fujitsu FM Town, and they gave us a scanner. And so we used a lot of scans from black and white scans, grayscale, for building a lot of the houses. Not all of that was done like this, but we used a lot of reference. We made the textures and stuff like that from photos because we sort of wanted to have that not video game look. No, nothing against video games, but we wanted to have that kind of a dry, kind of photorealistic-ish. So what we would do, we would use a lot of photo material and in grayscale, and then recolorize it by hand. Okay, and there was a mix of hand-painted stuff, but we sort of wanted to have that kind of dry look, But this is kind of how we were saying it, and I'm pretty big proponent of that with Lovecraftian material. Is like don't go too spectacular with Lovecraft. It's just like all the horror has to sort of be in your head and in the characters, and you don't want to be too distracted with too much wow. That's my feeling on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Another graphical question: the game uses some character models that, let's say, resemble real Hollywood actors.
Oh no! Total coincidence.
Okay.
Hubert might want to answer that because what you're mentioning is Brain Baby. So
okay, we try to. When I begin to write these things, I ask to myself, and if we make a movie with a script, which actors could we choose for the part? So you can meet in the movie in the game Jack Nicholson and people like that. It was very amazing to imagine this script in real movie with real actors, and it was the starting point. So of course all the characters look like
a little.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we asked the question back then. I think we had somebody in legal, and I think they said something like, if they don't really look exactly, if there are enough differences, that should be okay. Just don't get caught.
And you didn't, obviously.
Well, whatever, man. I mean, it was just we didn't want Hubert unhappy, so saying that it's like all the blame is on him.
Okay.
But there's a lawsuit one day. It's Hubert, not me. And I was just obeying orders. Hubert, you okay with that?
Yeah, of course. Yes,
oranges.
Yeah,
no, but really, I mean, honestly, they don't.
Great.
They're inspired with like. I remember we were talking about one character looked like Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Vincent Price, and he couldn't sue us, obviously. Back then, I think he was gone already.
Mm.
And like I remember going, all right, let's make the nose much longer, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like when you do cars in video games, right? You can all your GTAs and all that stuff. Like the cars look like actual models and actual makes, except you can say, hey, there's at least 30 or 40% on this car that is not the make and model that you're referring to. This is not a Mustang. This is a Palomino, and look, the headlights that don't look like Mustang headlights. Yeah, but the body, maybe, but it's kind of a coy thing. But some publishers will make you do that if they don't want to go out and pay for licenses and stuff like that. So,
okay.
But retrospectively, I don't think we have. As far as the characters in Shadow of the Comet, in the current climate, the current industry would never do something like that again.
Mm-mm. Yes, but it helps for writing dialogues. It helps for the gamers, because these characters are very particular. They have characterization, and at the first sight, who is who.
Right.
And
if you see Vincent Price, you know who that is.
Yeah. And you don't waste time about it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's wow. It's Vincent Price. So I have to be afraid.
Yeah, but my point is that, I mean, we would not risk that again.
No.
And Jack Nicholson never called and said, "Hey guys, what are you doing with my face?"
No, but first off, we didn't sell that many copies. We sold pretty well, but it was not like, I mean, nobody bought a Ferrari with that,
Okay.
Maybe the owners of Infogrames, but not us. So, actually, I don't know how many copies we sold. Enough to make a sequel, so I guess that's okay.
Yeah. And as far as I understand, there were a lot of changes made during the development, and I've read that the protagonist was originally named Randolph Carter, a name that occurs in many Lovecraft stories. Is that true?
Yeah.
There were not so many changes. It's just, I mean, the development process in Shadow of the Comet was like, I wouldn't say cakewalk or work in the park, but it was hard work, but it's not complicated. Editorially, there's been some changes, yeah. Hubert, I don't remember if you named a character. No, you always called him Parker, right, from the start?
No, it was Randolph Carter at the first.
Initially?
Yeah. The first thing we changed, it's about, you remember, the Indian wizard. who pick up the heart of the victim. It was touchy for
Right.
Bruno because he was afraid of American people because of the native Indians, Native Americans. It was not very cool to have a negative character who was a Native American.
But we
And
did it.
but we did it, and at last we find something great.
Yeah. Actually,
I can't say
we had I had some previous experience, Infogrames previous game, where I had been next a room because it was too gory and kind of there was that idea of Infogrames, doing horror but still being very mainstream. And so I was kind of ready for that. There was a cutscene with a human sacrifice with that Native American sorcerer sacrifice. It's kind of like this Inca human sacrifice, this kind of thing. And so what I did the mock-up of it was all really, really basic motion graphics as we could make them back then, right? With deluxe paints and Animator Pro. And I had made like a really super, super, super gory version, like really, really bad, with like the guy would like stab the guy in the heart. You would see the blood explode everywhere, and then he would squeeze the heart. It was just gross. And hoping that they would accept like the still seeing the heart and everything, but more like almost like a shadow. And so I had made both versions, and I showed our companion like the really gory version, and it was like oh but no, can you do something lighter? Like it's too much, and they didn't want to. They were not trying to cut our wings creatively. And there were legitimate concerns. Again, Germany. And so basically I just waited a day or two, and then I showed him the other version which I had made at the same time as the first one. He was like, oh, there you go. That's good. Let's do this one. So, remember that, Hubert?
Yeah, but yeah, I remember well.
Yeah. And we also did something like that on Alone in the Dark too. We had like a big fucking. Sorry, I apologize to the audience. We had a big it was kind of like a post-rape scene in the cutscene, and it was really horrible. And we also had like another much lighter version, same scenario. Yeah. So we had to be a little of how can I say duplicitous, in some cases. But Randolph Carter, honestly, I don't remember. I remember you had changed the name of the village because initially I think it was Innsmouth.
Innsmouth, and
then it became Ilsmouth.
Ilsmouth, because of Lovecraft. They didn't want we use too much Lovecraftian name, and it was a problem, a legit problem. I can't remember what kind of problem.
I think
because it was of the movie, the Roger Corman movie. Who was an adaptation of the Lovecraft novel Shadow over Innsmouth or something like that. Yeah.
And also there was a thing which a Call of Cthulhu. It's a role-playing game, right?
Yeah.
And in the role-playing game, they try to stay away from using core characters. They try to sort of like you have to build your own character and you're going to be the protagonist. Don't bother calling yourself Randolph Carter, right?
Yeah, okay.
So I think there was some of that, which is too bad. Honestly, I don't remember, but it's really too bad because it would have been really cool to make him travel in the dream space,
Yeah, of course, and especially for Lovecraft fans, it would be a very nice touch. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna do a Kickstarter with Hubert, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember other occurrences though. I remember also some characters, Hubert, right? That you initially were from Lovecraft and then you changed the names. Like some
No,
old guys in the village and stuff like that. No?
no. We have the similar problem with the Native American sorcerer, because in the original Lovecraft novel, it's Miskacamus or things like that, and we change one or two letters or syllables to change the name. I can't remember the name of the guy. It's Miss Camus or something like that.
Yeah.
But it sounds
Will
but
Scamus.
yes, but it sounds like a Lovecraft, like in Lovecraft novel. You know,
Yeah.
all the name are Lovecraftian.
And it really amused me to no end because just after Alone in the Dark, Shadow of the Comet, the comic book started coming out I think it was in '95, after Prisoner of Ice and all that stuff, and it was Hellboy by Mike Mignola, and they had that whole Lovecraftian riff with like never using the name from Lovecraft. It's built. He seated his own, bestiary and mythology, but looked a lot like Lovecraft, and then took it away with his own names and all that stuff. And I would read that comic and just laugh and say, yeah, we did the same. We did the same thing.
Okay. Next question is, might be a bit of a picky one. One big part of the plot centers around Halley's Comet.
Yeah.
So a very real event, as many Lovecraft stories do as well, that occurs roughly every 75 years. And it did occur in 1910. And in the game, it says that it did in 1834 as well. But as far as I could find, it did in 1835. Was that a change made for the plot, or simply because back in the day one could not look up every information in 10 seconds via the internet?
Oh, no. Oh, the Comet, it's for my grandfather. When I was young, my grandfather is dead now. He tells me when he was a kid, he saw the comet, and I just want to say him hello with this trick, and
Okay.
that's all. It's personal.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's great, because that is one. Yeah, and one I did find, and I did not understand until now. Thank you for this information. Whose idea was it to add the very, very cool Lovecraft Museum bonus game in the CD-ROM version?
Oh, that's Hubert.
Oh, yes. The museum?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. C'est rigolo, ça. Yes, because Bruno for the CD-ROM needs something more than the game, so he want a bonus, and it's not only me, it's with Patrick, because he asked us to find out something, and I can't remember. Maybe it's Patrick. He says, and why don't do a kind of museum of horror?
I don't know.
A Lovecraftian place. Are you sure? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But it's
what
no
I
importance,
remember.
no importance. Yeah. And it was very amusing to do that. Yeah, I was forgot it.
But what I remember, we were very lucky, was that Hubert was super busy at the time, starting to work on a lot of projects. And we sort of needed to have a Lovecraft expert who could really write all the descriptions. I think that's the one of the really cool things in that museum. It's like all the artifact descriptions. And actually, the guy who turned me onto Lovecraft was a high school friend named Didier Briel, and he was crazy Lovecraft fan. He had himself painted by as the Pikmin model that's sitting in his living room, and nuts. And so I reached out to him, and he didn't need the work, but when we explained to him, he wanted the work, and he wrote like this crazy, super, super erudite descriptions, which I think really helped. And then Hubert wrote a story around it, like a backstory. But remember Hubert with Lord Boleskine and all that stuff?
Oh, yes, Lord Boleskine. Yeah, my friend.
And we had And also we had Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft was the actual
Oh,
museum guide,
yeah.
and and it was just like things that told us really well. And we had a guy, I can't remember his name, who did the art. It was just like super, super good. So we actually, it was a tiny little portion of Shadow of the Comet, but very, very proud of it. Even though I pretty much didn't do any work on it other than looking for the right people with Hubert to make it work. It was awesome.
Yeah, it is indeed. It's a very, very fun extra.
Yeah,
I have to say.
I've seen it on YouTube actually, like a couple of years ago. Somebody put it up on YouTube.
Yeah, I kind of stumbled upon it. I recently bought Shadow of the Comet via GOG, and when you start it up, you can choose the museum, and I just thought, the museum, what might that be? And then I got this fun little extra. It's on the rather short side, but it's nice. It's nice just to walk around and take a look at all these Lovecraftian extras. Yes, it's great.
Oh yeah, the exhibits are great. Yeah. It was just it's such a trip. Again, we really like love. We're fanboys with Hubert of Lovecraft. It's like, oh God, so great.
And the third Lovecraftian game you did was Prison of Ice, which moves the setting from the 1910s to the 1930s and adds Nazis and shifts the plot into a more, let's say, pulp and sci. Yeah.
Right.
Hubert. Oh yes. The main idea was to connect Lovecraftian stuff with World War II. And just before, non avant, before World War II with secret operation, with it's kind of Lovecraftian Indiana Jones,
Yes, exactly. That's how I would.
Yeah, adventure. And the idea was given by a secret Nazi organization who's looking for old magic artifacts. So first it was the idea to wrote about a thing like Alien, but on a submarine. But it's not very easy to imagine a kind of alien adventure in game into a submarine at this time, because it's very small. And at last it will become boring. So we imagine a kind of monster who is released on Earth because he was found out a kind of Cthulhu monster. Very aggressive, and you have to fight it and beware of spying guys around, and a kind of dangerous ground. Okay.
And the anecdote was that initially that monster in the submarine was, Hubert, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was supposed to be a Shoggoth from the Mountains of Madness, which is a sort of like that, the floating blob with eyes and mouths and all that stuff. And honestly, I can't remember what happened, but we ended up designing our own creature, which was more like a sort of like a 80s horror movie kind of creature.
Was this?
I can't remember how to. Oh yeah, we had a sculptor who designed it, right?
Yeah. You sculpted.
No,
it's not you.
From I think it was from Annemasse or on the Swiss border. I did I did the first sculpt. I remember I did the first sculpt, and then we met that sculptor, and we're like, hey, would you take a stab at some monster?
Yeah.
And do you remember that big, like it was like 30 centimeters high monster, and I think we did based on that.
Yes.
And it was a pretty cheap monster.
Yeah.
I mean, like looking back, it's like we did everything wrong by Lovecraft on this
Yes.
specific character. We should have never shown it.
Yeah, you're right. The first impulse was at the Mountain of Madness novel, which is a very great novel. It's one of the best,
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Not just Lovecraft. It was just a great horror novel.
Yeah. So
yeah, it was a shock of shit. H.P. Lovecraft, so bad.
And a nice touch of the game is that later on you meet some familiar faces from Shadow of the Comet.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was. We were doing. I think we're doing some recycling actually. Yeah, and it wasn't the first time we had recycled Draken, which was one of the first adventure games. Popular adventure games were Infogrames when we did it. So now we recycled some of Draken just because we could, and we figured, hey, we're gonna do that shroom, and we're not gonna have to pay anything. We already have the art assets. But yeah, we go back to the village, right? To the fisherman's wharf, right, Hubert?
Yeah, yes, but it was a really long time ago, and it's hard to remember this,
But it's over 30 years ago, right? We don't. Oh no.
Je sais pas.
Okay.
Je sais plus.
25 years. Oh God. So we can still go to prison for that.
Quelle année? C'est en quelle année?
94.
94.
I think we shipped in 94.
Wow. Oh
Because it
God.
took so long to make that baby. Oh my God. It was like pulling teeth. We had that joke that that game was developed over cursed Indian burial grounds.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if anything could go wrong, it would go wrong. Like the whole time. We were supposed to make that game in like less than a year, and it took us like, I don't know, 2 years to make it, Hubert? Something like that?
No.
A little longer?
No, it was very interesting to
Felt like years.
Yeah, but it's like the baby, at one day they have to born, and at the end it was boring to because you have changed the resolution of the game, no?
Yeah.
Changing it.
Yeah, because initially Prison of Ice was supposed to be like Shadow of the Comet. It was supposed, I think the format was called MCGA, right? It was like 320 pixels horizontally by like 240 vertically, something like that. And it took so long to go through pre-production. We had like 10, 14 versions of the initial draft. Took so long that by the time we had produced the assets and the script, everybody was pretty much more or less on board with the script. SVGA was coming up. So that was quadruple that resolution, right? Or 640 by 480. And we had to up-res all the art. It was just like, this is not something you want to do.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way. And then it took an extra 6 months to do that. And it was just... this is not my best. This game is really not my best memory at all. Even though I'm pretty happy with some of the stuff in it. We pretty much were. I think we were the first company to use motion capture for an adventure game, at least in Europe. Take to that game, but it was not a great experience. And also, Hubert, I don't know if you remember, but the company was growing really fast.
Yeah, too much.
And
too fast, too much.
When we did Shadow of the Comet, nobody cared. I mean, really, nobody cared. Bruno Bonnell would swing by once in a while and say, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Oh, oh, okay. Like, no, nothing too horrible. No. Okay. And then we started having investors. We started having a lot of people hired. And for some reason, Prisoner of Ice was drawing a lot of attention from a lot of people in the company.
Yeah.
And we went from just, getting an approval by sitting together and say, "Hey, what do you think?" Okay. To having a lot of cooks walking around and putting that a little grain of salt in the soup, And it was really, really frustrating because we had like a super good first draft, and then some people decided that it was no good, and things were getting very complicated real fast. It was kind of hard to keep the direction because at some point, I was producing the graphics of the game, and I didn't really know what the direction was anymore, And there were a lot of people. I don't know, Hubert, I remember you were having to spend a lot of time pretty much just selling to people in the company. Just leave us alone.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, alone in the dark. We were.
Yeah.
With monsters.
Right.
Yeah. Too much money is not very good for.
That's right. That's true.
It's like for movies and in culture in general. When you have too much money, it's killing project.
Yeah.
Killing
Plus,
project.
we were not used to that. You have a lot of people who are used to work within, corporate environments, creatively. But for us, it was new. We were jumping in the space of 1 or 2 years from being maybe like 60 something or 90 employees to, I don't know, what was it, like 300? At the time we finished Prisoner of Ice, and then it went on to explode, triple that later. And we were just not, a lot of us were not really ready to kind of have, some guy would show up and say, "Hey, hello, I'm HR." It would be like, "Oh, what's HR? What is HR?" We had no idea. We're going to do a retreat and talk about how to improve our communication, and we're going to have internal web and stuff like that. I would be like, what is this? This sounds very interesting. But the reality was that we were kind of a little bit, for like a year, I think we were a little bit lost about what are we doing with this game? It's like everybody's changing their mind all the time. Because we were just a little shop and people would leave us alone before that. It's like, do your stuff, guys. If we like it, we'll sell it,
And would you say this is the reason that there were no more Call of Cthulhu games from Infogrames after that, after Prisoner of Ice?
I don't know.
Well, I try we were supposed to make 3 games with Carol here.
Yeah.
And the last one, because of Bruno changed his mind about Infogrames. In fact, in 1 year it was completely change in company, and it just want to buy out other company and grow up, and making games was not really important, in fact.
It was. It was. Infogrames really became a financial play for a while.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, we're a corporation. Everybody's giving us money. Let's just buy. I remember the really interesting conversations. This guy is great news. We're gonna buy a good studio. And we're like, oh, thank you so much.
And and Patrick gone to work in the USA, and I was in France, so something was broke, and that's the end. That's the end. That's all.
Yeah. And and also there was like Infogrames was very interested in becoming some sort of a like Walt Disney of interactive or something like that. And horror was not really at the topmost concern for the company. I remember when I was in the U.S., we had started a studio we pitched a couple horror games. Remember, Hubert? Including Alone in the Dark 4 at the time. And there was pretty much, and the story for Alone in the Dark 4 was really awesome. And that we're pretty much not getting any much interest from the main office, let's say. Yeah, it was like, oh yeah, sure, but maybe you should just go and check out that developer we bought and help them out with the game they're making. It was not really it. It was a consolidation period. There was not so much a creative period anymore.
No. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Okay, but then let's end our conversation a bit on the bright side with another question with one last question that would be, looking back, what are your feelings about Alone in the Dark, Shadow of the Comet, and Prisoner of Ice?
Oh.
And you don't want to end with a dark note, okay? So.
Would it be a dark note?
Oh, there was. I mean, Hubert, did you?
Oh.
Why don't you age before age?
Oh. It was fantastic. It was great. It's complicated to say that, and it was every day was cool, was good. It was not. It was an adventure. We don't really. I'm sure we don't really know what we were doing really. We invent things, and it works. When I remember this time, it was something magic in the air, and great people work together for succeed something great, I think,
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful time, really.
I would pretty much agree with you, Bear. I mean, this is it's something I've always enjoyed in this job, is the sort of like R&D pioneering aspect. There's that new technology, there's that new horizon of stuff that we can do. And at the time was really great because it was such a radical shift from everything I had known before creatively. I mean, like I said, I was coming from regular, print art and ads and advertising and stuff like that. And it was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. We're learning, we're inventing. It's super exciting. That's something that keeps you up at night and makes you wake up early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, these 3 or 4 years, something like that, were just it was a team, but it was a couple of teams that it was really a family. And I'm not saying that lightly. It was really it was like a boat that was going to look for the Indians going west. It was like we didn't know what we were going to find, but we knew that everybody had our back pretty much. And it was super encouraging, and discovering the world through making video games, because we're traveling a lot, we're meeting a lot of people, we were spending an insane amount of time talking to specialists from outside, the external, the engineers, and the entire days. Remember the days before Google search, like spending entire days at public libraries. And Hubert was mentioning the submarine in Prisoner of Ice. We actually had a guy go and take photos in London of a submarine that was on display and send them back. And then we had to invent like some sort of geometry for the summer, and that would feel real. That would not be real, because otherwise we could not have any action at all. And all that stuff. So it was like always, solving new problems and, together and figuring stuff out. And then that's this aspect of development. In addition to telling stories, it's kind of ideal, Nowadays you get, like really cool, groundbreaking startups where they break new grounds, and you got, a game industry which is pretty much using stuff that's already been proven before, and just telling great stories on top of that. But it's fairly rare to find what we had back then, which was, okay, we're inventing and we're telling stories and we're inventing new stuff. And, except, with AR and VR, I think there's a lot of opportunities to do that right now, but it's not that often. So.
All right, then Patrick, Hubert, very big thank you, not just for your time, but also for your work in the video game industry, and of course, this very enjoyable conversation. It was my great pleasure, and I wish you guys all the best for the future. Merci
Thank
beaucoup.
you. Merci.
Merci. All right.
Bonne soirée.
Auf Wiedersehen. Thank you so
Auf
much.
Wiedersehen.
Take care.